Today I'm going to be working on the 91 Accord, and I'm going to be doing the timing on it, the timing belt. I'm not going to be putting a new one on it or anything like that. I'm going to be setting it up correctly, so I'm going to be showing you guys how to do that. If you want to go ahead and put on a new timing belt and water pump while you're at it, definitely go ahead and do that. But today I'm just trying to get this car running smoothly so I could go ahead and start moving it. If you guys saw my previous video, I was working on this, trying to get this thing moving. I verified the cam and the crankshaft are not timed correctly. So I need to go ahead, take it apart and set it up correctly. So first thing, let me open up the hood, get this thing slightly jacked up on the side here. Car slightly jacked up here enough to get to the crank. What I'm going to start to do first is start to get the belts off for the power steering and for the alternator AC, so we'll have room to get to the crank. To get the power steering belt off, got to loosen up this bolt right here. I believe that's going to be a 14. Get a 14 and a breaker bar. Usually it's pretty tight. Just get it loosened up. That one was super tight. Below this 14, right down like over here by the power steering pulley, you're going to see a nut, and it's going to be a 12. You got to loosen that one as well. And underneath right here is going to be a 10. There's two 10s, but you're going to get the one to the left. That's going to be your adjustment screw. Power steering belt is off, and now I'm going to get to the alternator belt, and right down here by the alternator you're going to see again two 10s. The right one though is going to be the one to loosen it up. On the side over here on the alternator you got another 14, and then if you look down over here you're going to have like another 12, I believe. I just moved the power steering pump just because I felt like it was getting in the way. I just took the bolts completely out of it, and now I can move it around without disconnecting the lines. I'm going to continue to loosen up the alternator. That 12 down there is kind of difficult to get, so I have a little extension on it. I got that belt loose. It's still right here and just tucked away, and now we can start taking off the valve cover. And if you guys saw my last video, I did take off the valve cover to do the valve lash. I didn't put the bolts back on or anything, so all of this is just loose. So we just take that off, take your spark plug wires out, set them to the side, hose off there for the intake. Make sure you get all your little washers, and then the valve cover. You got to get your 10s. You got like 4 10s that hold it down, and the valve cover comes up. Make sure not to lose these. Pops up right there. I'm not going to completely take it off right now just because I don't want any dirt or leaves to fall in it right now. Next thing I'm going to work on is getting this cover off for the cam gear. It's just held on by two 10 mils. There's one right here and then one right here. I might have to get the mount out to get access to that 10 mil, but we'll see right now. So there is the one on the right. It looks like I will have to remove the mount in order to get access to that one 10 mil bolt. I had jacked up the car even more, set a jack stand on here. I'm just working on bare ground, so I have some wood, a concrete block, and a jack stand to really try to hold it on up, but still it's not the safest of ways. Hopefully you guys are working on a concrete driveway or something. That's just the way I'm doing it for now. But I do have the jack here, and it is just slightly supporting the engine, and that's because I'm going to take off the side mount and just hold the engine on up so I can easily get the mount out. To get it out, there's 3 bolts or 2 bolts and 1 nut that holds it in. There's going to be a nut right there, a bolt on this other side, and then the bolt here. And there's the mount, got that out. And now I could get to the other 10 mil bolt that's holding in the cover. It does look like it has a new timing belt on there, and if I look down, it looks pretty much like a new water pump. Next thing, I need to take off the crank. You do need the Honda crank tool, and this is it. You could get it from different places, and it's, I believe, like 35 bucks or something like that. But anyways, it goes on the crank around the bolt just like that, and then you're going to put a breaker bar on there, and the breaker bar is going to hold it from turning whenever you have your socket on it. The socket size for the crank is a 19, so I'm going to put that on there. Put an extension, put a breaker bar. Sometimes you need enough extensions to come all the way out. I'm going to try to do it without it. Of course, you can turn the crank in order to get your breaker bar in the right position. My crank tool, and then the breaker bar is hitting the suspension, so it'll prevent the crank from turning. And then I have my breaker bar on here. Try to use my foot or maybe a pole right here and break it loose. Alright, so that worked out for me. I'm going to go ahead and continue to get the crank off. And then you should just wiggle the crank and it should just come off. And there's the crank. Now that's off, I could get the lower timing cover off. There's going to be a bunch of 10 mil bolts, probably about 5 or 7. We'll take a look right now. We got one right there, another one there, another one right there. So there is going to be a 10 mil right in there, you guys can see. And then there's another 10 mil bolt if we look right over here in this area. Now the lower timing cover should come out. Just kind of gotta maneuver it. Alright, so it fell out. It was just getting caught up here on the balancer shaft. It does have some damage there, but I mean, it's all good. With the timing cover off, we could fully see how far off timing it is, and it is set there. If you see the line, there's a line on the cam gear and then pointing up, so the line has to be even with the head, which it is. There's the gear for the crank. There's an arrow. And then if you see the indicator, like right there, they're not lining up, so it is slightly off of time. There is an oil leak down here, possibly the oil pan, or it could be this balancer shaft over here. So I gotta loosen up the timing belt, and I gotta loosen up the tensioner. If you guys can see right there, there is the tensioner. It has a 14 right on the end of it. There it is right there. So there's the 14, and it does have a washer. You see that red portion of where I took off the 14? Right here is going to be a 10 mil bolt. You're going to loosen that up and take that one fully out. You'll be able to take the tensioner fully out and get the timing belt for the balancer shafts out. Here's the bracket for the tensioner and the spring, and it's going to go just like that. The tensioner, pulley, or bearing for the balancers. Now you could get the belt out and get it off, and you could pull the gear for the balancer shafts out. Just looking at these parts, they look very new. This is a Gates timing belt. This one as well for the balancer shafts, and a new tensioner. You can tell it still has the markings on there. This tensioner as well. It says Gates on there. Has some rust from sitting, you could tell. But see, brand new, man. Just now I moved the crank with my hand. It's pretty easy to move. And you want to make sure that it's on time. with the mark on the oil pump, which is right there. So that looks good. And up here on the cam, I have the lines even to the head and the up arrow facing up. And then on the other side of the cam here, you do have another line, and that is lined up. To me, the back side is easier to read just because it's closer to the head and you can tell when it's even. But of course, you do have the mark on the front side, and then this one as well. I took some time to clean up some of the parts here and just clean them up a little bit, trying to make them look a little bit better than what they are. And also under here, took some time clean up some of that oil. Still a little dirty up here, but cleaned up the bottom portion mainly. And here where the mount sits also, and clean the mount. I'm gonna get started on putting the timing belt. So I'm gonna need the timing belt, and I'm gonna need the tensioner for the timing belt. Just gonna put the tensioner on its shaft, not gonna hook up the spring yet. And I'm just gonna leave it loose just like that, but it's sitting on the shaft, and you can move it part way up. I'm gonna also grab the gear here for the crank. I'm going to slide that on up. It's going to make it easier to get the timing belt on. Now I'm going to put on the timing belt. I'm going to start on the crank and try to hold it right there where I need it. And again, we have the crank slightly slid up to make it a little bit easier for us. Hold it, and then I'm going to go on top, put it around the cam. Hope the camera caught how I did everything. It's just a little hard to keep it around the crank, but I say put it around the crank, put it around the shaft right here. Don't put it on the tensioner just yet. Put it around the shaft, then go on top, put it around the cam, put it around the water pump. Then once everything's holding together by itself, because the belt will be sitting on the shaft, get your hand and put it around the tensioner, and it should go on real easy if you do it just like that. I'm just going to slide the belt on because we slid everything forward. Slide everything back. Make sure the crank's still on top dead center. Everything still look good. So everything's still looking good. Got my timing mark in a little circle lined up right there. Depends which way you view it, so sometimes it might look a little off, but you gotta make sure you view it straight on. So all that is around timing belt on the water pump, on the tensioner, on the crank, and then we come up around the cam gear here. Next step, I'm gonna put that spring on its little pivot that it hangs onto. I'm going to use this tool. It's just kind of like a pick, I guess. And I'm going to put the spring around it so I could get it on up, and then just kind of slide it onto its pivot. Next thing I need to do is put on the belt for the balancer shafts. So I'm going to need these parts here. Before I put anything on, I need to firstly set the balancer shafts on top dead center where they're supposed to be, just because they're supposed to rotate in sync. First thing I'm going to do is set this balancer shaft. This one, you got to go right behind here. There's going to be a 12 mil bolt. You got to take that off. You're going to take this bolt fully out. There will be probably a few drops of oil that come out, so be prepared for that. And then you just grab like a screwdriver. It can't be too long or it won't fit, but it has to be long enough. Or you could get a skinny bolt, long skinny bolt, and then put it in the back of the hole, and then turn the balancer shaft until it starts to fall in. See, like right there, it's stuck in there. Now for the front balancer shaft right here, this one has a mark. You guys can't see right there on the shaft, it has a mark, and that has to be lined up with this mark right there. If I remember correctly, it kind of moves because this one can't be locked in. I gotta kind of offset it, so once I put everything in and then put the tensioner in, it kind of moves right back here. I'll see right now. I'm gonna set it on just top dead center just like that, and then see how it goes again. So now time to put the timing belt for the balancer shafts. The belt is slid on there, and technically I kind of did offset this other shaft. So if I move it all the way to where it's tight, it's slightly off of the mark, but whenever I put the balancer or the tensioner in there, it should just line right on up. I know it's kind of hard to see because it's dark in there, but let me put the tensioner in there and then we'll see how everything looks. Put the washer, and then we'll put the nut on there, and I'm not tightening anything up, everything's still on there loosely. And now I'm going to just attach the spring onto there. So now I'm going to take out the screwdriver that's in back for the balancer shaft, and then I'm going to get the crank and just slide it on there. I'm going to turn the motor counterclockwise, see if I could do it with my hands. I just turned it just a slight bit so I could pick up the slack and put it all on the tensioner side. It's just a slight turn, if you guys had seen. What I'm going to do is I'm going to get my breaker bar. I'm going to get underneath here, get underneath that first tensioner, push on up so I can get all the tension that's in the timing belt, and then I'm going to tighten up the 14. That is tightened up. Next I'm going to tighten up the 10 for the bracket. Tighten up the 10. What I did real quick as well, I got an extension, put it on top of the first tensioner here, push down on it from the top, and then loosen up the 14 real quick. Once I felt it move, I just tightened up the 14, and just to make sure that the balancer timing belt is tight. I made sure that the timing belt for the cam and the crank is tight as well. So now we're all good to go here. I'm going to go ahead and replace the 12 in the back here for the balancer shaft. Now I feel everything is on time. I'm going to throw the crank on here, spin it counterclockwise at least 3 times. Each time making sure that everything is still on top dead center. I'm just going to loosely throw the crank on there without the bolt. No need to tighten it down, because you just slide it on there and then use your crank tool to spin the motor. Alright, so that's one full rotation right there. Let's take a look. The up arrow and the indication mark. I don't know how good you guys are able to tell, but it's sitting right on top dead center. And up top, take a look. Up, got this even with the head. Take a look on the back side, that's even. And then this other side right there, if you guys can see, even with the head. So timing is all good. So I'm just going to spin the motor 2 more times. Just make sure everything's still on time as it should be. You really don't want to lie to yourself. If it's slightly off, then it's slightly off. Take it all off and do it over again. And as you guys had seen, the timing belt water pump have been done on this car, but it was not done correctly. So make sure, double check, triple check your work if you have to, and make sure everything is all good before you start throwing all the parts back on, and you're just going to have to do the job right back over. So next I'll be putting on the timing covers onto the engine, which these are held on by these 10mm bolts. Get the bottom cover in. Let me look from top. Alright, so it's getting caught up on the little spring that was on this side, but also you gotta make sure it doesn't get caught up on that front balancer shaft. But after that, it just slides right in, and just put on the bolts. Battery had died, but I did put on the lower cover, the 3 10mm bolts here. I am missing the front bolt, so I didn't put that one on. I also did install the bolt right there. Next, I'm going to put on the upper cover and just need these 2 bolts. Now that I'm already here, I'm going to reinstall the engine mount. Now I'm going to put on the crank pulley. I'm going to go ahead and put the torque specs for you guys, but I just put it real tight with the pipe, and so it should be pretty close. I'm going to give my back a break and start to work on the valve cover on reinstalling that. I got to put the gasket on there first, and then we'll put it onto the motor. Real quick, I used a razor blade just to clean up the surface where the valve cover is going to sit, and as well cleaned up the valve cover. Now I'm going to be reusing the valve cover gasket that it had on there, and I'm going to use some new RTV sealant. This gasket is just acting really weird, so what I'm going to do, which I don't recommend, is I'm going to cut the gasket in order to make it fit. See, even this side doesn't fit. So I don't know if you're able to tell how much extra gasket on each side there is, which I'm going to be cutting that off. So now it fits how it's supposed to. I'm going to put some sealant on here. Let's throw this on. Now that went on real easy. Made sure I had the power steering out of the way, made sure the wire for the alternator wasn't in the way, and used my hand while I had the valve cover to push out this hose. Now I'm going to just put on the 4 washers and 4 nuts that hold on the valve cover. Put on the hose for the intake, the hose for the PCV, and as well can't forget the body ground here in the corner. I also threw on the spark plug wires. Now we're all good to go on the valve cover. Just need to focus on putting the belt for the power steering and the alternator. I'll put the belt on for the AC alternator. I just left it here on the side. Just kind of move it out the way. Around the AC in the bottom. Get it on the alternator. Now I need to tighten up the adjustment screw down here. It's a 10 mil. Use the 10 to tighten it for the tensioner. Tighten up the 14 and then tighten up that 12, if you guys could see it right there. Last thing left to do in the engine bay is put on the power steering and its bracket and put on the belt. I need to put on the power steering. Let's go ahead and move it down to where it should be at. It should be like right there. Belt on there. Now I got to put these bolts on. This is for the tensioner, and then this bolt over here is going to go inside of it, and then on the other end it's going to have a nut. The bolts are on. Now I'm going to firstly tighten up the belt, And then after that, I'm going to tighten up the 14 and then the 12. Car on the ground, wheel has been tightened up, and we are completely finished with the timing. Now the reason why I did it is because the timing was slightly off on this motor. Again, bought this car pretty cheap, just trying to get it running, get it moving, and it's running real rough. So we'll see if this changes anything. And as well, I triple checked the firing order on the distributor and spark plugs. So now we're good on the firing order, distributor, we're good on the head, the valve lash, the timing, and so let's see how it goes. Guys, so that is going to be the end of the video on doing the timing for the F22 A1. I did try to start the Accord as you guys had seen, but it's still not turning on or starting fully. There was about two good times it started, it sounded good, and then it just died out, which I have a clue on what it may be, but you guys are going to have to wait till the next video until I dig in a little bit deeper on it. But I'm getting a lot closer. There's really not much else that it can be. Hopefully you guys got some good information out of here, able to do the timing on your vehicle. Comment down below if you guys have any questions. Like this video if it helped you out. Subscribe to my channel. Check out some of my other videos. I have tons of other projects. But as far as this video, guys, this is going to be it. Click down in the description box. There's a link to my eBay and Etsy if you guys want to support the channel in any way. As for this episode, guys, I'm going to have to catch you on the next one, player.